What? Luke's father is Darth Vader?
Everybody knows that. We learned of it months ago.
I was frozen in carbonite. Sue me.
You cannot go against nature, because when you do, go against nature, it's part of nature too. Our little lives can...
Hey folks, welcome back to Star Wars Delusions of Granular, your weekly podcast where we talk about Star Wars. I gotta come up with a different term for that, because we're more than weekly, we're twice a week. Is that bi-weekly, or is that every other week? I always get confused with that. Anyway, this is the second podcast of the week, and it's actually the third podcast for me that I've recorded this week. I wanted to give a shout out. I've was a guest on another podcast this week, a podcast by the name of The Untitled Hour with Hot Doug and Hitmaker. Now, folks, as you may or may not know, I record from Chicago, and if you're from Chicago, you know of a place that no longer is around. It was called Hot Doug's. He was a man by the name of Doug Sohn, who basically had the world's finest hot dog imaginable. I've had it several times, and it is quite the thing to experience, and unfortunately it's a rare thing to experience nowadays. Doug has retired and has moved on to bigger and better things, and one of those bigger and better things is having a podcast show of his own. And since I frequented his establishment quite often, I actually became friendly with him and asked him if I could be on his show, and he said yes. So give it a chance, folks. You can find it at radiomisfits.com. He's a part of a podcast network there. Again, his show is called The Untitled Hour, and you can subscribe to it as well on iTunes and I believe Stitcher. So and the latest episode, I believe it's episode 8, is features yours truly. So yeah, check it out. I bring the Star Wars goodness to an otherwise un-Star Wars podcast. So there you have it, folks. So anyway, like I said, we're Delusions of Granular. You can find our podcast at delusionsofgranular.com or subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/SWDOG or follow us on Twitter at SWDOG77. You can always call us at 651-337-9364 and leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the air. Or just leave some feedback at swdog77@gmail.com. So I keep saying us. If you're new to the show, just turning on to this latest episode, you're probably wondering who this us is. Well, my co-host, JP, who has recorded several dozen episodes prior to this show with me, has been on maternity leave for a while, and he actually used the hotline to kind of check in and give us all an update on the baby and what he's been doing. So let's hear from JP.
Hey there, Ron. It's your erstwhile co-host, JP. Still on paternity leave. Wanted to give everybody an update that my wife and baby came home and is happy and healthy. I gotta tell you, Ron, I've been listening to the podcast. Number one, sounds great that you're doing a phenomenal job. Number two, I have a newfound respect for the fact that you're bringing a little podcast along. I've recorded this now 4 times, so I'm just gonna run through it real quick. The podcast has been great. I've been super loved the Princess of Addiction episode, and it's really just kind of been an upward start since then. I think you're really finding a cool new voice for the podcast, and I look forward to rejoining it. As far as how the baby's going to work into the podcast, while we were at the hospital, they were playing Jaws on the monitor, so we got to watch about a half hour of it. She didn't really watch it so much, but the Indianapolis speech was in there, so I like to think she heard it and appreciated it. So she got that within the first 48 hours of life. So, that's the John Milius callback there. So I think she's going to be good for the podcast overall. But just in case, we watched Clip of the BJ and the Bear together today, so I've already got her on research for our eventual Sheriff Lowe episode. So, yeah, I think she'll be an asset to the podcast, all things told. But, anyhow, just wanted to touch base and say thanks for all the great work you're doing, Steve Sheave. Awesome work. Thanks for all those reviews. And still kind of determining a date when I'll be back full-time on the podcast. But, may the force be with you.
Well, there you have it, folks. JP is alive and well, and a proud new daddy. And as in true JP fashion, he's already has his young child watching Jaws and BJ and the Bear. So, way to go, JP. Also, JP gave a thank you to Steve Schindler, and I wanted to give a thank you to him as well. Folks, do check out delusionsofgranular.com because we are putting up more content on there every day, not just the kind of podcast notifications, but we're actually trying to put real content out there. And Steve is helping us do that by writing these wonderful reviews of the novels that have been coming out, especially the new novels, the new canon novels. Just today we posted his new review of Dark Disciple, and it's a pretty lengthy review, so I believe that means he really enjoyed that book, as well as we here at the podcast also enjoyed that book. So check out our episode. It's a few episodes back. I believe it's called Dark Side Bedfellows, and check out Steve's review because it is a book worth checking out. So thanks, Steve, for all your hard work, and we appreciate all of your contributions to the podcast and to our website, and we hope to not only get your future contributions from you, but folks, I open it up to all of our listeners. If you have content that you would like to write about, whether it's a review of any of the novels, any of the past EU novels, any comic books, any TV shows, Star Wars related, of course, send us your reviews. We'll definitely post them on our site, and hopefully, by doing that, we'll add to the SW Dog community. Or even if you have any articles that are more editorials, your personal thoughts about the goings-on in the Star Wars universe, behind the scenes, or just on the stories whatsoever, we'll take any content. So yeah, if you have anything that you want to share and are looking for an outlet to do so, come to SW Dog, and we'll give you a chance. So you can email anything, questions, articles, whatever. If you want to talk to me first, just email us. Again, that email is swdog77@gmail.com, and I'll hope to look forward to hearing from you and growing this community. All right, so what is this episode about? Well, a while ago, JP and I, we became enamored with a certain Star Wars show that we felt wasn't getting enough love from the Star Wars fans. So we took the time to watch it and talk about it, and that show is called The Yoda Chronicles. And when we aired that episode, we actually were contacted by one of the show's creators, Michael Price, who is the writer-creator of the show, and he well, aside from JP and I being a little starstruck by actually having a creator reach out to us, he told us to check out his new show that was coming later on in the year called Droid Tales. So I wanted to kind of take the time on this episode to check that out and let you know what our thoughts are on that, since the first episode has already aired. It's on Disney XD, and you can find it if you have the Disney XD app. It's actually there, kind of right next to the Yoda Chronicles. And this is another Lego Star Wars show, so it's got the same Lego humor that we've come to know from all of the Lego shows, Star Wars and whatnot, but as well as, you know, the Lego movie. And you know, other than that, it's kind of, I do enjoy these shows very much, but I do feel like they are a little bit of the red-headed stepchild of the Star Wars universe, because they just don't get the love from the media that some of these other Star Wars endeavors get, and it makes me scratch my head a little, because, you know, this is fun. I don't know if it's people just don't take it seriously because it's Lego and it seems like it's for kids, but as we enjoyed the Yoda Chronicles, I've already really enjoyed the first episode of Droid Tales, and again, in feeling like the show isn't getting the love it needs, I watched the first episode, and for weeks afterwards, couldn't figure out when the second episode was going to air. You know, and this is, I should say, this is a mini series, so it's really only five episodes, but it seems like Disney XD is spacing them really far apart. So, you know, that's not helpful. But, you know, once all the shows are out there, I'm sure that they'll be collected on DVD or Blu-ray or even as a digital download somewhere. So, you know, hopefully fans of Star Wars will latch on to this sooner or later. But, you know, I wanted to, you know, kind of make mention of it so it's in people's minds from the get-go. So, what is this show about? So, Droid Tales is an interesting concept, and it's kind of goes along with what I talked about a couple episodes back, the retelling of Star Wars. You know, I talked about how Star Wars is being retold as a Shakespeare story in the Shakespeare novels. It's being retold for little kids just learning to read in the Little Golden Books, as well as, you know, in the past it's been retold on the radio. It's been retold listening to vinyl records. It's been retold on stage as a live reading with actors in front of an audience. But this is a little bit closer to the story. This is being told through the eyes of R2-D2 and C-3PO. Yes, the entire saga is being retold through the two droids. And in keeping with the Shakespeare theme here, this has been kind of compared to the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead style of storytelling. Now, folks, if you're a little bit familiar with Shakespeare, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are two side characters, kind of friends of Hamlet, and they have their own story outside of Hamlet called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and they kind of tell what's going on in the story, but from a side perspective. And that's really what this show is doing. Droid Tales is, well, this is what it's being sold as, is the droids are telling what happened in all 6 movies through their eyes, which is an interesting premise. We haven't gotten this before, and I want to say that we're even going to get, you know, more of these types of stories in novels or even young adult novels in the future, where we're going to get, the Star Wars Saga kind of from Leia's perspective, or all from Luke's perspective, or whatnot. Instead of the way the movies are told, they're kind of from everyone's perspective. So this seems to be kind of a trend that we'll get moving forward, is the retelling of the original 6 through different ways and means of telling the story. But this one, I say that it's being retold that way, but having watched actually the first and second episode, because on the Disney XD app, you're actually able to kind of preview the next episode before it actually airs on the channel. What it's really doing is kind of retelling all of the movies in a slightly skewed way. So it's not actually telling the same story, but it's giving you the plot points slightly skewed. So for example, the first and second episode actually covers The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. So they're kind of structuring this so that some of the episodes are going to cover one movie, some of them are going to cover 2 movies. They're going to cram 6 movies into 5 22-minute episodes. So if you're not a fan of the prequels, I understand that. You should watch this anyway, because they're going to fly through it quickly, and you're going to enjoy such self-referential jokes, such as Jar Jar being in true South Park you killed Kenny form. Jar Jar gets killed multiple times in these first 2 episodes. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So I say that they're retelling these movies, but in a different way. So you'll get characters like, you'll get Dooku's death, right? Very gruesome death. They're not going to show that on a kid's show in Lego form. So they do show Dooku getting defeated, but it's in a completely different way. A lot of the characters, they get from point A to point B, just like they do in the movie, but it might be twisted a little. Like they didn't actually do the exact same events to get them to the same outcome, even though the same outcome is there. So, like I said, I've watched Droid Tales, episode 1, which is called Exit from Endor. I've watched the second episode, which is called Crisis from Coruscant, and this really covers the prequels. So I'm looking forward to the next 3 episodes, which I guess is going to tell the original trilogy, which will be interesting because from the way this show is set up, it starts with the Battle of Endor having been ended, and we immediately see the day after with kind of our main characters, Luke, Han, Leia, all a little bit, I'd say hungover. I think that's alluded to, even though it's a kid's show. And it finally dawns on our main characters that the droids have been around for like 30 years, and they might actually have some stories to tell about, such as Luke and Leia's mother and father. So, it kind of, the show is structured in a way, so it's really R2-D2 and C-3PO telling the original prequels to Luke, Han, and Leia. Kind of goes off on the tangent from there, but that's the initial setup. We have side stories too as well. There's a new storyline going on with a mysterious figure who actually kidnaps R2 halfway through the first episode, which is interesting. I wonder where they're going to go with that. If you watch the Yoda Chronicles, you'll know that they introduced a new character there as well, a clone that has force powers. So I'm wondering if this is a callback to that character. It's a hooded character. In my mind, it reminds me of the scene in the new teaser trailer for The Phantom Menace, where we see what everybody assumes a cloaked figure who's Luke put a mechanical hand on R2. Almost looks like the same type of outfit, dark cloak with some type of light colored tunic underneath. I highly doubt that they're using this show to connect The Force Awakens to anything, but you never know. It's interesting. As I was kind of preparing for the show, I was looking at the promotional posters or images online for the show, and they did take the original posters for all the movies, the Drew Struzman art posters, and they Legoized them all. So we have all 6 posters done in Lego form for all 6 movies. But then we have an actual Droid Tales poster as well, and it has obviously R2 and C-3PO in Lego form as the main focus point of the posters. But in the background, it's interesting because we see a lot of the main characters from the prequels and the original trilogy. So we see Qui-Gon, we see Anakin, we see Han Solo, Chewbacca, Luke, and then way off in the corner we see Ezra. Interesting. So I wonder if the plan with this show, there's still 3 more episodes of this, I wonder if they're going to start to incorporate the Rebels characters into this show as well, which would be very interesting, since we have not seen any real connection to that other than Bail Organa shows up in Rebels being connected to the movies. So that'll be interesting. Now, obviously, this show, as the Yoda Chronicles, is really just pure fun, pure poking fun in a very lighthearted way at all of the Star Wars movies. This is by no means canon, so take it for what it is. I don't think that any of this stuff will ever make it into canon. It is really just for pure fun. As a way of kind of pointing that out, I should say that Michael Price, the writer/creator of the show, he did write for The Simpsons, so if that'll give you kind of a hint as to what the humor is like on the show, it's definitely has a Simpsons vibe to that, as well as just the Lego humor as well, that we're all familiar with if we've seen the Lego movies or any of the other Lego shows. Alright folks, so I did want to mention the next episode, the second episode, which is called Crisis on Coruscant, is actually airing on this Monday. I believe is the 24th, August 24th. So I know that this has not really been well announced, and I guess unless maybe it's probably being advertised on the Disney XD channel itself. But other than that, I've scoured the internet and haven't found release dates for any of the future episodes. But I know that the second episode will be airing this Monday. So I do highly recommend folks check it out. That's Lego Star Wars, The Droids Tales. Alright folks, that is all for today. Until next time, stay granular.
no new tale to tell.